Now that we've considered the players that influence prices, let's look at the difference between fundamental and technical analysis. Before we put on a trade, we need to make a decision, and that decision is usually made on a number of different factors. Most traders will base their decision on either fundamental analysis or technical analysis, or both. We don't have to choose between the two methods. However, there is a reason that traders favor technicals versus fundamentals. We'll talk about that in a minute, but first, let's consider fundamental analysis. We're only going to dedicate one slide to the subject of fundamental analysis because the geometric trading course teaches the technical approach to trading. The fundamental approach to trading can be divided into two general categories, and these are economic factors and statistical factors. The economic aspect of fundamental analysis deals with broad economic trends. These trends are studied to identify cycles and reversals in price. So economic factors tell us where we might be in the business cycle, and they basically tell us when we should be a buyer or a seller of whatever it is that we're trying to trade. The statistical factors focus more on what to buy or sell versus the when of the economic factors. If someone's looking at the statistical factors for a stock, for an example, they'd be looking at things like data on earnings, P&L, PE ratios, assets, liabilities, etc. All these things are considered as a way of determining which stock to buy or sell. This would all be considered within a specific sector, which in itself might be in or out of favor. So I'm talking about stocks specifically, but there's fundamental analysis applicable to the currency markets and also the futures commodity markets as well. All of this information can be used along with technical analysis or not. If fundamental analysis interests you, there are many resources available online depending on what markets you're trading. If you're interested in fundamental analysis of the stock market, I'd strongly recommend a subscription to Investors Business Daily. It's a great paper, and Geometric Trading has worked out a special price for IBD, or Investors Business Daily. To take advantage of this discount, you can send an email to meetup@investors.com and include the discount code, my name Ross Beck, and they will get in touch with you to provide that discount. However, this course deals with technical analysis, so let's define exactly what that is. In the Gartley trading method, I define technical analysis as using historical data to determine future price action. So what kind of historical data are we talking about? We're talking about price, time, and volume. And if you trade futures, we can add one more, open interest. A pure technician will only use this information to make a trading decision, as he believes that the market has already digested any fundamental news already. For example, if there's some inside information that will eventually hit the public, the insider with that information will start to act on the news, and the market will show that insider's bias through the price action before this inside information is made available to the general public. So this example shows the superiority of looking at the price chart only, as it already reflects all the fundamental data. This idea of just looking at the charts and ignoring the fundamentals can make our life a lot easier than poring over the seemingly endless amount of fundamental data on a particular financial instrument. This simplicity appeals to a lot of people. In fact, H.M. Gartley had this to say in his book, The Classic Profits in the Stock Market. He said, Naturally, the technical approach also appeals to many persons because the vast majority are inherently lazy. So at least he was honest. Remember, this is coming from a guy that wrote about the technical approach to trading, so don't feel too bad. Now let's look at the data that we'll be using to make our technical trading decisions: price, time, and volume. Let's first look at the price dimension. The price or y-axis of a price time chart is usually displayed on the right-hand side. As you can see here, this chart starts from 0 and it goes up to $50. Horizontal price lines, like these ones, only intersect with the price axis and have nothing to do with the time axis. These horizontal lines can be displayed onto the white space of the chart forever. All of the techniques that we'll be using in the initiate level will be focusing on this axis, the price axis. We'll be looking at the best price measuring techniques available and look for the confluence of these horizontal lines on our charts to identify significant support and resistance levels. Now, let's have a look at the dimension of time. The time or x-axis of a price chart is usually displayed on the bottom of the screen here. Time is measured with vertical lines on the chart, such as these. As these lines only intersect with the x or time axis, they don't reflect any price value. This slide shows the superiority of diagonal lines when used for charting. A diagonal line reflects information from both the time and price axis. An example of a diagonal line is a trend line. In the initiate level, we'll first learn how to become proficient in the use of horizontal price lines to find future levels of support and resistance before we can move on to the more advanced concepts of combining price and time together. Now, besides price and time, the technical analyst also knows how to use volume. Volume analysis is often overlooked for many technical traders. Unfortunately, beginners will apply a number of different indicators to the bottom of their chart that are all just different ways of looking at the same single dimension of price. By adding volume to the bottom of their chart, they add unique information that is not just another interpretation of price. Volume is also represented in the price and time axis of the chart and is usually plotted directly below the price charts, as we can see here. So we still have the time across the bottom, and now we have the number of shares traded on the right-hand side here on the same axis as the price. We will be considering the use of volume when we later discuss the trend reversal Gartley trade setup. If you like to trade Forex, volume data is more difficult to obtain for the spot Forex market because it's a decentralized market. But currency futures contracts can be looked at and their volume can be assessed, and this can give us an idea of what's going on in the spot market. Now that we've looked at fundamental analysis versus technical analysis, let's discuss the reasons why technical analysis works. So why does technical analysis work? Each financial product is traded by a group of individuals. This product therefore takes on the composite personality of all these individuals. The extreme emotions of this composite person are then expressed on a price chart. Looking at the history of the composite person, we can create a personality profile. In the process, we identify patterns that are statistically quantifiable. How? By using our geometric trading tools to identify patterns. Geometry on the price chart can define the emotion of the composite person very precisely. Remember in the neophyte level, we talked about how people prefer order over chaos? When people look at charts, they initially see chaos. Instinct takes over and we start to look for things. All things being equal, a person will look for a shape on the chart, whether you like it or not. Don't believe me? On the next slide, I'm going to show you a picture of a cloud, and I want you to look at the randomness of this cloud and force yourself not to relate this image of the cloud to anything that you've ever seen before in your life. Okay? Ready? Watch this. Okay. It's just a random cloud, right? Yes. Does it look like something else? Most of us will say yes. This little exercise that we just did happens when millions of people look at exactly the same price chart. The market will finish painting a shape on the chart, and in our subconscious, we think finished. Then the market will finish painting this one picture, and then it starts to paint another, newer picture. This idea is the foundation of what I call geometric trading. As I've said before, geometry has been and always will be the single most powerful tool to forecast the world's financial markets. The definition of geometric trading is: geometric trading is a trading method that utilizes the science of geometry to forecast market reversals in price and time. So now it's time to start turning the figurative lead into gold. We have now prepared the esoteric, or inside of ourselves, for the exoteric, or outside. Remember the previous sections? These are important because we have to work from the inside out. To interface our inside with the outside world, we'll probably be using a computer to do that. So let's talk a little bit about the type of trading hardware and software a professional has to have access to. Now, if you had an architect designing your house, what would you think if he came up to you and said, "Hey, I'm using a scaled down version of AutoCAD on my cool new iPhone to build your house"? Or maybe he said, "I found some free software on the internet and I think it's just as good as AutoCAD." What would you think of him? Would you think that's professional? Do you think he's serious? Do you think he really cares about your house? It's really no different with technical analysis. Do you really want to risk your hard-earned capital with less than adequate tools? Yeah, it might seem cool to trade off your iPhone or iPad or whatever gadget that you have, but if you're serious about this and you want to be professional, don't cheap out on the tools that you'll be using every day for hours on end. And just because something seems cool, the latest new gadget, you have to really look at yourself and say, is this something a professional would use? Some of the packages and data feeds out there might cost you a little bit of money, but compared to other businesses, your overhead for this business and starting your operation is quite low, so don't cheap out. If you treat this business like a hobby, it's going to pay you as a hobby. Purchase a workstation, not just a low-end retail machine from Costco. Purchase a workstation with a high-end graphics card, solid-state hard drive, the fastest processor you can get, max out the RAM on the motherboard, and use the fastest hardwired internet you can get. And yes, have a redundant wireless card in case your main internet pipe goes down. And regarding software, there's no end to the quantity of different charting software packages out there. And because of competition, there are a lot better and cheaper packages out there than there were back in the 1990s. The next slide is not a pitch to buy software. You can use free software or even hand-drawn paper charts if you want to look for trades. In fact, if you have the time, patience, drafting table, compass, and straight edge, I would almost prefer that you keep your charts by hand. However, for those of you that want to use a computer for consistency and to avoid confusion with some of the names of the techniques used, I'll be using only one software product all the way through all the levels of the geometric trading course. And that product is Market Analyst software from Australia. Now, why Market Analyst? It's one of the best packages available with the power to plot geometric shapes on our price charts, even in 3 dimensions. It's the preferred product of most of the top market geometers on the planet. So if you'd like to follow along with this video with me as I use Market Analyst to set up our charts and to scan for Gartley patterns, you can download a free 30-day trial of the Geometric Trading edition of Market Analyst at the geometrictrading.com website. If you decide to purchase the software after the trial, there's also a special offer available on the Geometric Trading website exclusively for students registered in this course. Now, here's how you can download the trial version of the software. So to download the software, go to geometrictrading.com and go to Trading Tools, Charting Software, and just scroll down to the bottom of this page here to download 30-day free trial. And you'll go to this page. Just fill out your name, where you're from, and your email address, and click Submit. And you'll be given a link for a download, and then you'll receive an email with your username and password to log into Market Analyst. So this demo for 30 days includes a number of the different tools that we'll be using in the Geometric Trading course. So let's fire up our computers and get started with setting up your charts.